Welcome to Story Minutes. In this installment, I'm going to be reading excerpts from my short story, Stars Above Detroit. And there's a link below where you can find the published story in an online literary magazine. It's not included within my book, Hearts Without Sleeves, 23 Stories. I've included a link to where you can find this book and discover some of my other writings. I've also included a synopsis of the story below. A little bit of background about the story is you can substitute Detroit for any city where there's abandoned homes or buildings where people without shelter are forced to live. And we're introduced to a fellow whose job is to red tag with a big spray painted red X any abandoned home, so the city can know before they demolish it that it's in fact empty. And it's getting near Christmas. It's cold and snowy in Detroit, and this fella has no family close by, so he just decides to go ahead and work. And he in fact finds out that this house is occupied. Not only is it occupied, but it's occupied by a very unique group of people of different genders, different age groups, different races, who have coalesced together like a family and are making the best of the worst possible conditions that one can find themselves living in. And this young building inspector learns the value of family, and that family can take many different shapes and forms. And the characters that he's introduced to, that you'll be introduced to should you read the story, are a very unique and loving and warm-hearted group of people that I believe you'll come to respect and appreciate. So with that said, let me read you some excerpts from Stars Above Detroit. It was a cold and snowy December when I was handed the address of a crack house in one of the deserted and boarded up Detroit neighborhoods, once inhabited by happy families. The closing of the automobile plants made the neighborhoods ghost towns. They call me Mr. X around the office because it's my job to tag deserted homes for demolition by spray painting a large red X across the front of the homes. My official title was Building Safety Inspector, but my work had nothing to do with building safety. The city was broke and sent me alone, armed with only pepper spray into the blighted neighborhoods to identify homes with valuable building materials like copper, used brick, marble, or fine woods. The city would sell before bulldozing the home. My work was dangerous because you'd never know what you'd find. I'd been driven away by crazed drug addicts, packs of wild dogs, the stench of decaying human corpses of junkies, and sometimes, sadly, the elderly owners of the home who died silently. The address led me to a boarded up Victorian mansion, which was the largest home on the block. My instincts told me it would be a treasure trove of valuable building materials. I didn't realize the old mansion was occupied, and decided to assume the role of a homeless man, hoping the occupants would permit me to stay long enough to assess the value of the building materials. Winters are a blessing and a curse in these blighted neighborhoods. The winter cold brought paying lodgers like me in off the streets. There are no working utilities in these houses. Nobody asked me any questions. They told me the rent was $5 a day, which provided a roof over my head, along with a blanket and a place to sleep in the hallway amongst junkies. Despite the bleak environment, it would be a Christmas I would never forget. I slept against the wall in a dark hallway with a few other guys wrapped in blankets. They snored, moaned, and jerked. In a far off corner of the mansion, a tenor saxophone wailed. The notes invited memories of somebody saying goodbye to somebody you love for the last time. I felt privileged to hear such beauty amongst the desolation. I drifted into a deep sleep as if being read a lullaby. I hope you'll read the story at the link below and become introduced to the lovely characters that this building inspector meets and receives a very valuable education about family. Until I see you next time, I want to thank you for joining me for Story Minutes, and I hope your personal story is a bestseller. Goodbye.